Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into, well, something that really affects everyone, doesn't it? Change. Whether it's in business or just, our everyday lives.
Absolutely, it's constant.
So we've gathered your sources, looked at foundational ideas, some modern case studies too, all to give you a kind of shortcut to understanding how you navigate big transformations.
Yeah. And our focus today is unpacking a really influential model, one that offers a structured way to think about managing change.
A classic, but still incredibly useful.
Exactly. We're talking about Kurt Lewin's three-step change model. It's quite insightful, really.
Gives you a clear guide.
It does. And you might find, even if you haven't explicitly used this framework before, it provides a powerful lens for looking at any significant shift. Makes things clearer.
Okay, let's get into it then. Kurt Lewin. Before we jump into the model itself, maybe tell us a bit about him. Who was Kurt Lewin, and why is his work still so relevant when we discuss change management?
Sure. So Kurt Lewin was a German-American psychologist, really one of the key figures in founding social psychology. He developed this three-step theory looking at the best way for, well, businesses initially, to manage change.
Okay.
He saw that change happens on multiple levels. There's the individual level, people changing their habits or skills.
Yeah.
Then there's the structural, systemic level, think new org charts, new processes.
Right. Big picture stuff.
And also change from within the culture. Maybe the management style shifts.
Yeah.
Lewin's idea was to find a process that addresses all of that.
And he boiled that down into this three-step change model. So step one, what is it and why is it so fundamental?
The first step is unfreeze. And it's all about preparing an organization or even yourself for the change that's coming.
Unfreeze, like thawing something out.
Pretty much. Businesses, people, we tend to get comfortable in our routines, right? The status quo feels safe. So accepting pressure to change can be, difficult.
Yeah, resistance is natural.
Totally. So Lewin said, to change effectively, you first need to unfreeze the current state. You have to loosen things up, make people receptive.
So what does unfreeze actually involve in practice? How do you prepare for something potentially disruptive?
Well, first you need to be really clear on what needs to change. Then it's about communication, putting all the relevant issues and reasons out there. You have to, crucially, create the need for change.
Make the case for it.
Exactly. Explain the current situation, why it can't continue, what the proposed changes are, the steps involved, and importantly, the benefits. People need to see the why and the what's in it for us.
And feel supported too, I imagine.
Absolutely critical. Employees need to know that management is behind the change and that support, like training or resources, will be available. This whole process is designed to shake up the status quo, the way things normally operate.
So key practical steps are like figure out the what, get leadership buy-in.
Definitely. Create that sense of urgency and also proactively manage the doubts and concerns people will inevitably have. Address the resistance head on.
Okay, that makes sense. And Lewin used a really neat analogy to explain this, didn't he? Something about ice.
He did. It makes it super tangible. It's the coin in a cup of ice analogy.
Tell us about that.
Okay, imagine you've got a plastic cup and it's filled with solid ice. Right at the bottom, there's a coin, say a 20-cent piece, sitting heads up.
Right.
Your goal is to get that coin to be tails up. But it's frozen solid. You can't just chip away or force it.
No, you'd break the ice or the cup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the only really practical way is to let the ice melt. That's the unfreeze step. Let it thaw completely.
Okay.
Once the water is liquid, you can easily reach in, flip the coin over.
Yeah.
Simple. That's the change step.
Flipping the coin. Got it.
And then, to make sure it stays tails up, what do?
You'd have to freeze the water again.
Precisely. That's the refreeze step. Solidify the new state. It's a simple image, but it captures the core idea perfectly. Unfreeze, change, refreeze.
That really does clarify it. So we've unfrozen the situation, prepared the business. What happens in that middle stage? The change itself.
Right, so step 2 is simply called change. This is the execution phase. It's where you actually move the business or the process or the behavior from the current situation to the desired new one.
The transition period.
Yes. Because the organization is in that unfrozen state, things are more malleable. Processes, policies, practices, they can be altered now. Management implements the new direction.
And support is still key here.
Absolutely vital. Maybe even more so during the transition. Communication lines need to be wide open so people can ask questions, get guidance, give feedback.
Keep things transparent.
Totally. Transparency helps squash rumors quickly, which can derail change efforts. You might also need specific training programs to help people adapt to new systems or ways of working and deal with any ongoing resistance.
What are the practical things to focus on here?
Communicate often, tackle misinformation head-on, empower people to actually take action within the change framework, and really involve them in the process. Involvement builds ownership.
Reduces that resistance we talked about.
Exactly. People support what they help create.
Okay, so the change has happened. The coin is flipped. How do you make sure it stays flipped? What's involved in that final step?
Right. The final step is refreeze. Lewin originally called it freezing, but refreeze is more common now. This is all about making the change stick, stabilizing things.
Institutionalizing it.
That's a great way to put it. You need to put strategies in place to make the change sustainable, part of the new normal. The real fear here is that if you don't refreeze properly, the momentum fades.
And people drift back?
Yep. They revert to the old comfortable ways, old habits, old policies, old practices creep back in. All that effort in the unfreeze and change phases can be wasted.
So how does a business effectively refreeze? What actions really embed the change?
It's really about consolidating the changes into the company culture, making it the way we do things around here.
How do you do that?
Practically, it means things like rewriting formal policies and procedures to align with the new ways. Celebrating achievements related to the change is huge, recognizing and rewarding the new behaviors.
Reinforcement.
Exactly. And maintaining support and encouragement for everyone, especially those who might still be struggling or uncertain. Keep the training going if needed. Anchor the changes firmly.
So practical steps, embed it in the culture, find ways to sustain it, keep supporting people, and celebrate the wins.
You got it. That celebration part is often underestimated, but it's key for morale and reinforcing that the change was positive.
This whole structured approach, unfreeze change, refreeze it, sounds incredibly beneficial. What would you say are the main advantages for an organization that actually uses this model?
I think the biggest advantage is the structure itself. It gives a clear, logical approach to something that can feel very chaotic.
A roadmap.
Yeah, exactly. A roadmap with clear steps that you can communicate to everyone involved, stakeholders, employees, managers. It acts almost like a checklist.
Helps keep things on track.
It does. And that structure also really helps to minimize resistance. When people can see the stages, understand why things are happening, monitor the impact, and know what their role is, they generally feel less anxious and more supportive.
Makes sense. Predictability reduces fear.
Right. Even though change itself can be unpredictable, having a predictable process for managing it makes a huge difference.
Now, what's really interesting is this isn't just some dusty old theory. You mentioned a contemporary case study, Telstra's T25 strategy. Even if they didn't explicitly say we're using Lewin, you can see the parallels.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great real-world illustration. When Telstra announced T25 back in 2021, it came after another big transformation, T22. Their leadership likely wasn't sitting there with Lewin's model open, but their actions, they map onto it remarkably well.
Okay, so talk us through it. How did Telstra handle the unfreeze phase for T25?
Well, the CEO at the time, Andy Penn, he really set the stage. He understood that change fatigue could be a thing, but he framed T25 as essential ongoing transformation. He didn't just announce it cold.
He built the case again.
He did. He explicitly linked it to the previous success, saying something like, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, T22 made us change makers. We took a radical approach. T25 takes that ambition to the next level.
Ah, okay. So positioning it as evolution, not just another disruption.
Precisely. That communication laid the groundwork. It essentially said, we can't rest on our laurels. The market keeps changing, so we must too. That's classic unfreezing, creating the rationale and preparing the organization mentally for the next wave.
Okay. And the change phase for Telstra under T25, what'd that look like?
So with the organization sort of primed, Telstra moved into implementing the specific T25 initiatives.
Right.
Things like pushing 5G leadership, improving customer experience drastically, simplifying products.
The actual operational shifts?
Right. This involved restructuring, investing in tech, changing processes.
Yeah.
And critically, they emphasized communication and support throughout this. They talked a lot about agile ways of working, empowering teams to make changes more locally.
Giving people agency within the change.
Exactly. That aligns perfectly with Lewin's emphasis on involvement during the change phase to reduce resistance and speed up adoption. They expected to keep communication flowing, provide support, get feedback.
Okay, makes sense. And finally, the refreeze. How would Telstra ensure these T25 changes become permanent, the new way of operating?
Well, T25 is a multi-year strategy, so the refreeze is ongoing, but the principle is the same. They need to actively work to embed these new practices.
Ow.
By rewriting policies to reflect the new simplified structures, for instance. By building the new customer service standards into training and performance metrics. By publicly celebrating milestones achieved under T25.
Making it stick.
Exactly. It's about making sure the momentum doesn't just fizzle out. Consolidating those T25 goals and methods into the everyday culture of Telstra is crucial so that it don't inadvertently slip back into pre-T25 habits.
So it really demonstrates the whole cycle in a large, complex organization.
It really does. Unfreeze, change, refreeze, you can see the echoes clearly.
So wrapping this up, what's the key takeaway for you, our listener? We've walked through Kurt Lewin's three-step model, unfreeze, change, refreeze. It's a clear, pretty structured way to think about transformation, big or small.
And maybe it prompts a question for you to consider. Think about an area in your own work, or maybe even your personal life, where change is needed. Or perhaps it's already happening right now.
Yeah.
How could applying this kind of structured thinking consciously, considering how to unfreeze things, manage the actual transition, and then really work to refreeze the new situation? How might that help you navigate it more effectively? Make it feel less chaotic, maybe, and ultimately make that change more stable and sustainable for the long run.
A powerful framework to apply. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into managing change. We hope Lewin's model gives you a fresh perspective, a useful tool for whatever transformations lie ahead.